Hello and welcome to Laurice's Kitchen, the place you shouldn't be if you don't eat carbs, have a problem with cats, or a compulsion towards busybodiness. Welcome to the saga of the sourdough starter. A few years ago, I became interested in making sourdough, but I never had the time to sit down and plow through the hundreds of sourdough starter recipes. I developed a case of decision paralysis, unable to plow forward. The calendar looped twice before I decided to get my act together and choose a starter recipe. I wanted to use white all-purpose flour, so I did have a starting place. After sifting through dozens and dozens of those recipes, I settled on a version of what I have now. That's 4 ounces each by weight of white all-purpose flour and room temperature water. This starter is fed once a day for 5 days, or more accurately, 5 feeding. On day 1, I mixed 4 ounces of flour with 4 ounces of water to form paste. This is actually the same paste you use in papier mâché. Sourdough starter is possible because we do not live in a sterile environment. We want to cultivate the yeast and bacteria that exist naturally in the flour we use and the air we breathe. With that in mind, we want to stay away from sterilized tools and ingredients. Your containers should be clean but not bleached, and if you have heavily chlorinated water, you need to let that sit out on the counter for a day to allow the chlorine to gas out. It also helps if you're using room temperature water. On day 2, I already had little bubbles forming, so this is well on its way to becoming a good sourdough starter. I got another feeding of 4 ounces of flour and 4 ounces of water. By day 3, things had started to change, not for the better. I like using the clear containers because you can see what's going on inside the starter. That clear layer is hooch, and it's a sign that the reaction is going just a little too quickly. You can also see all these bubbles on top. This means the starter is becoming very active, so we're going to switch over to 12-hour feedings. We're still giving it its 4 ounces of flour and 4 ounces of water. This is still staying on the counter at room temperature. This is the evening of day 3. It's 4th feeding, and you can see I'm starting to develop hooch on top. I'm just going to stir this all together and still feed it its 4 ounces of flour and 4 ounces of water. But I am putting it in the refrigerator overnight to try to slow down that reaction. This has been in the refrigerator all night long, and it does look like I have got another drunken bitch on my hands, so thanks to Devin for naming this. On top here, this is called hooch. It's alcohol, and if you distilled it and filtered it, you'd have Grey Goose, but that's illegal, so don't try that at home. All right, so we're gonna attempt to rescue this. I'm gonna stir this in and then take out just a scant cup of it. I have a clean container. It's not sterilized. Remember, you don't want sterile stuff for starters. We're going to add this here and then continue to feed this with our 4 ounces of water and 4 ounces of flour. And because it's warm and this is going like crazy, this is going to go back in my refrigerator after about 30 minutes. Again, this is getting loosely covered. We don't want anything that seals. This is our leftover starter. Now we can do one of two things. We can either throw it away or we can use it. I'm going to go ahead and try to make this into a couple loaves of bread. I will definitely have to add yeast because there's no way that it is going to rise. By contrast, this is the crazy bitch. She was fed about 2 hours ago and she is percolating away. I'm going to end up with another bread making marathon today. This will probably make another 4 loaves of bread. I spent all of yesterday trying to wrangle this drunken bitch. It went in and out of the refrigerator with smaller, more frequent feedings. I'll include a more detailed description of what I did down below. It looks much better today, and I'm going to go ahead and divide it in half and feed it again. And I'm also transferring it back into the original container because it's easier to work with. I'm only going to scoop a cup out of this and then I'm going to get rid of the rest. And this is getting fed with another 4 ounces of flour and 4 ounces of water by weight. And because it's doing much better, I'm keeping it on the countertop. It's also much colder today. I'm now in maintenance mode with this starter, and I renamed her Hoochy Mama because it was getting a little too confusing to have 4 bitches in the kitchen, including me and Jelly. If you find that your starter is sulking, where it's just not producing a lot of bubbles or very much lift, you can add in a few ounces of whole grain flour. I'm using rye along with my 2 ounces of white all-purpose flour and 4 ounces of water. These 2 starters took nearly a month each to establish themselves, where I could reliably feed them, and then 3 hours later they had either tripled or quadrupled in volume. You may find that it takes a little less time or a little bit more depending on the individual environments of your house. These 2 starters were made with the same ingredients in the same house, and yet the crazy bitch has a much sweeter aroma than Hoochy Mama. Every day, your starter needs to have some discarded and the rest fed. In the coming episodes, we'll show you what to do with those starter discards, both active and spent. If you'd like not to be saddled with baking bread every single day, your starter can spend up to 7 days in the refrigerator between feeds. Just bring it out, allow it to come to room temperature, scoop out what you're going to use, feed the rest, and put it back in the refrigerator for another 7 days. A more detailed description of everything that's taken place here will be in the description box below. Thank you for visiting Lauriceskitchen. If you enjoyed this video, give the like button a click and don't forget to leave a comment. We're always happy to hear from you. If you haven't already, subscribe to our channel and don't keep us a secret. Share our videos with your friends and family. You can follow us on Facebook for behind-the-scenes pics and videos, and on Twitter for upcoming videos and the random cat picture.